I'm Dr. Jaquelyn McCandless. I am considered an autism specialist because about 11 years ago my granddaughter was given a diagnosis of autism, and so I changed my career from being a psychiatrist and an anti-aging doctor to an autism specialist. And I started working with autistic children, the biomedical aspect of autistic children. And I wrote a book called Children with Starving Brains. It made me, very well known because it was the first book that a clinician had written about the biomedical treatment of autism. So I was very, very interested in what made the immune system work in autistic kids because most of them have impaired immunity. So I was doing some studies at in Los Angeles where I was working, and Dr. Vojdani at Immunosciences was helping me devise a panel for immune tests. I did 36 immune tests on 20 autistic children. And it was, I was getting these test results back, and one day he called me from the lab and he said, wow, he said 90% of your kids, the CD4 cell count is going up. And I had just heard let's see, let me track back. When he was first seeing my autism panels, he was saying, these panels look just like my multiple sclerosis panels. I said, oh, really? And so right after that, I heard about LDN, low-dose naltrexone, being used for multiple sclerosis patients. So I thought, hey, well, if it helps multiple sclerosis patients and their panels are the same, maybe it'll help the autistic patients. So I used my granddaughter Chelsea as a guinea pig and a few other kids that I knew really well, and I tried low-dose naltrexone on them, and they did really well. So I did a larger study of a larger group of kids, and on that study, turned out that 90% of them, they raised the CD4 cell count. CD4 cell is the cell that's pivotal in AIDS. And I knew that AIDS was a raging epidemic in sub-Saharan Africa, and I had also just read that 15,000 orphans from AIDS were in sub-Saharan Africa, and half of them were HIV positive, which meant that 7.5 million poor little kids were doomed to die by the age of 2 and be crippled, and probably the rest of them would die by 5 or so. And I said, this has to go to Africa. So Dr. Bahari, who was the discoverer of low-dose naltrexone for clinical use, he and Dr. Zagon had been working with animals at Penn State. Dr. Bahari began using it in AIDS patients, and he had wonderful effects of low-dose naltrexone. And so he had tried to start a study in Mali, which is a fairly peaceful country in Africa. And so I went to Mali, and I got an appointment with the health minister and spoke to a lot of people there and visited the University of Bamako. Bamako is the capital of Mali. And we set up a research study to compare, no placebos. We had 3 groups. One group for LDN only, one group for the heart drugs and LDN, and the other for heart drugs only. So we wanted to have 200 patients, but 170 is the minimum patients you can get for statistical relevance. So we're probably going to have to settle on the 170.
Is that what you have now?
No, we don't have them yet, but that's what we're heading for. We lowered our hopes because it takes a long time. In the country of Mali, there's a lot of stigma. It's a Muslim country, 95% Muslim. There's a lot of shame about having AIDS. There's a very low literacy rate. Only 17% of people can read or write, and most of those are men. The women are very suppressed there, very much denied rights. All the rights mainly go to men. Women are fairly dominated. They can't say no to men. That starts from very little. They are really suppressed so much that if the husbands won't let them go get tested, they won't go get tested. And some women die there, never even know why they're dying because, they don't know enough to know that they need to get tested, and that if they get tested and they have it, they can get treated. So we're working hard now to get the health minister to upgrade the level of publicity for the people to be willing to go get tested so they can get into our study. So we're doing all the testing. We've acquired about 40% of the kids we need for it, of the people we need for it. They're actually all adults. And another thing that cuts down our population of the Mali study is that there's a lot of tuberculosis and malaria and other diseases. It's a very poor country, very poor medical care, a lot of diseases. So we have to rule out tuberculosis, pregnancy, malaria, any other kind of diseases they have. And if they go too far and they need treatment already, they're too far for our study, because our study is about prevention. And our thesis is that if people start the LDN before their CD4 cell count goes below 350, we can keep them from ever going on to full-blown AIDS. So that's our goal in doing this study. So at the time, I'm continuing to work with autism children and teaching and lecturing for them, and I'm also doing the research project in
You're not
Mali.
just doing this research study, you're supporting this research study.
Well, my husband and I have put a lot of money into it because we thought it would be easy to get money for it. We have gotten $130,000, but we've also paid $130,000 because a lot of people are not interested. The pharmaceutical companies are not at all interested in a cheap generic drug that they can't make money in. And we applied to the NIH, the CDC, all of them. They say only pharmaceutical companies can afford to do studies. They cost $4 million to take 4,000 subjects, and so we have to do it someplace else. Now, another problem with Africa is that the pharmaceutical companies have gone to Africa and have taken advantage and sometimes done studies where they don't even tell people they're on a placebo. They're uninformed. So we're highly ethical. The IRB was very strict there. No one can go untreated. No one has placebos, and everyone will continue to be treated after the study, and so there's no problems there. So we're working with wonderful people. We have 14 doctors that we're working with who are interviewing the people and taking care of them and keeping the results. And so we hope that, maybe by summer we will have a report for the world on how LDN does for HIV to prevent it from going to AIDS.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible.